Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the UFL DFS video for week number 3. In this video I'll be going over my sheet, talking through all the relevant players, whether or not I consider them a GPP option, a cash game option, or kind of a pay down option or dart throw. And with that being said, I have a good amount of the injury news in here. I'm still waiting on some of those practice reports for Wednesday as I do record this. Should be coming out probably any minute as I do speak. So wanted to get on this right away. I'll leave those updates down in the comment section as well as the inactives for this week overall. But we're going to get started with the Birmingham Stallions, who did just place Alex McGough on injured reserve. So he obviously got hurt last week. Matt Corral did step up in his place. He's $9,000 GPP option if you really want to go there. I'm not the biggest Matt Corral guy just in general. And I think it's a little bit tougher matchup versus Arlington Renegades. So a little bit of high risk, high reward there at the same time. CJ Marable missed week number 2 due to personal reasons. I have not seen anything in terms of the practice report at this point in time, so I do assume that he'll play. So CJ Marable, Ricky Person Jr. could both be GPP options if you really want to go there. Obviously, monitor that status as the depth chart does come out. Then speaking of guys that were away from the team for personal reasons, Deon Cain did miss practice on Monday and Tuesday due to personal reasons. We'll see ultimately whether or not he's active for this game. If he's active, he is very much a GPP option once again. Marlon Williams really stepped up in week number 2, and he's also a GPP option at $6,500. Before we get going too much further, I will mention that I do not have the snap count data from week number 2 at this point in time. I do rely a lot from PFF to put that into my spreadsheet. And in the past, I have charted it like individually, compressed games, everything else like that. That's a very time-consuming process. Personally, I don't have that much time to be doing all that at this point in time, so that's kind of unfortunate. But as soon as that information does come out, I'll add it to my sheet. That will be up on my Patreon page as well. And then we're going to continue moving down. So Davion Davis will be the next guy up, $4,900. Pay down option if you really want to go there. If Deon Cain's out, probably a larger target share going to him. Maybe Austin Watkins comes alive at $3,000 as well. Then Jay Sternberg at tight end, $5,800. Looks like a solid GPP option. Once again, if Deon Cain's out, he looks even better. And then once again, the backup tight ends behind him we're not too worried about. In terms of that Birmingham Stallions defense, they're $4,200. I have not been the biggest fan of their defense to start off the young season, but you can roll them out of a GPP option if you really want to do so. But they are going against the Arlington Renegades, who have played really well through 2 weeks, so don't really think it's necessarily a risk that we do have to take there. Move down to Houston Roughnecks, who did have Anthony Brown start as the primary quarterback last week and play most of the game. A little bit hit or miss in terms of his performance, but he does have some rushing upside. $8,900 GPP option if you really want to go there. In terms of their running back position, Kirk Merritt did miss on Tuesday due to a knee and ankle injury. We'll monitor his status throughout the week. If he's unable to go, Zaquan Wright's going to be a little bit more interesting, although all 3 of these running backs have really struggled to start the season. And then there was some trade news this week. So they actually did trade for Michigan Panthers wide receiver, or former Michigan Panthers wide receiver, Marcus Sims. He's $8,100. If he plays, he's a little bit interesting, but I'm not chasing him this week overall. I think Justin Hall is going to be the primary guy once again. $8,700 GPP option. He also operates as their punt returner. Lawrence Keys did operate as their kick returner last week, $3,100, but he's starting wide receiver for them. So he's kind of a pay down option if you really, really want to go there. And then moving down to the tight ends, nobody really stood out from that group. The Roughnecks defense at $4,000, though, going against Showboats GPP option. There is a little bit upside to be had there as they have kind of struggled to figure things out, but they could be better in week 3 with the second week of Ken Wisenhunt coming back and calling plays. Moving down to that Showboats team, we have EJ Perry at quarterback, $9,100. I have him as a potential cash game option. Definitely do love the rushing upside with him. If he's able to get some of those touchdown passes into the end zone, he's going to look even better, but he was limited on Tuesday due to a rib injury that he did play through after suffering early on in last week's game. In terms of the running back position, I'm assuming the same 2 guys are active this week, but Jacob Kodobi played a lot down the stretch for them. $4,200 definitely looks like a very interesting and very viable pay down option just in general. Jonathan Adams coming off a really good week once again. He's obviously the wide receiver 1 for this team and probably the wide receiver 1 so far through this UFL season, so definitely do love him at $7,600 cash game option there once again. And then D. Anderson, $4,600, kind of a pay-down option. He came alive more in week 2. We'll have to see if that's a trend that continues as the season does move forward. Obviously, David Davis is still injured. I think they placed him on injured reserve, but I haven't really dug too much into that. I know he was technically not cleared to play, so he might not even be on the team, and then he might just come back whenever he's actually cleared to play. Not really too on top of that situation at this point in time. And then Eli Estova, $3,100, kind of a paydown option there, but did not practice Tuesday due to personal reasons. Him and Kwame Lassiter both operate as the primary kick returner in week number 2. Week 1, it was Prince that was the kick returner, so that was a minor change there. And Isaiah Henney was still operating as that primary punt returner. I know a couple of the teams before this, I might have forgot to mention who those guys were, but for Birmingham, it's pretty much been Deon Cain as the kick returner, and then Davion Davis as the punt returner. Margaret Rogers did return punts week number 1. And then I think we just had the Roughnecks after that, who have had Justin Hall as that punt returner, and then last week, Lawrence Keys did operate as their primary kick returner. Then we move down to that Showboats defense. Their $4,100 cash game option going against Houston Roughnecks, who have really struggled to figure it out so far on the season on offense. Jaron Horton as the defensive coordinator for the Showboats. Definitely do like the steps that they've taken forward just in general. Moving down to the Michigan Panthers, we have Bryce Perkins at quarterback, $9,300. Does come with some rushing upside. Been pretty solid so far to start off the young season. Cash game option there at $9,300. And then their 2 running backs, Matthew Colburn, Nate McCurry, both have been kind of meh to start the year. Both are very viable GPP options that could have a little bit of upside, but haven't really shown it too much this season. In terms of the wide receivers, it's a very interesting room now with no Marcus Sims. Mariner will probably operate as the wide receiver 1. He comes in at $7,400 GPP option if you want to go there. Devin Ross did operate as the kick and punt returner in week number 2. Samson Nakua has been all right so far in the young season, so maybe you could take some shots there if you really want to. But Malik Turner is probably going to be the guy that I chase a little bit more this week. $4,100 pay down option there just in general. Obviously, you do have some other former NFL guys and Xavier Malone and Jalen Moore there as well. And then we move down to their defense. $4,400 GPP option going against San Antonio Brahmas. Kellen Mond has really struggled at quarterback so far to start the season. So their offense has really kind of stuttered in a very, very large way to start off the season. Moving down to the Arlington Renegades, they are a team that has had a lot of success through 2 weeks, as they are a team that returned a lot of starters at the same time as well. So Luis Perez, $9,700 GPP option, maybe a cash game option if you want to go there, although he does not have that rushing upside. Kalen Balaj has kind of been that grinder at running back so far through 2 weeks, $7,500 GPP option if you want to go there. D.D. Hunter behind him has actually played really well at the same time, so $5,800, another GPP option there. Davion Smith, I believe, didn't even play a single snap in week 2. He's just been the goal line back so far through 2 weeks of the season. Deontay Burnett scored touchdown week 2, $6,600. You could go after him as a GPP option. Same thing with Tyler Vaughns and Isaiah Winstead. Winstead is coming off that big week number 2. Lawan Winningham did not practice on Monday and Tuesday due to an ankle injury. And then David Durden, their other wide receiver that's been inactive the first 2 weeks, was limited in practice on Tuesday due to a groin injury. And then obviously Sal Cannell at tight end, $8,400, is going to be a GPP option week in and week out. Then we move down to the Renegades defense. I do apologize because somehow I missed the price tag for them, but they are very much a GPP option going against the Birmingham Stallions team. Matt Corral, quarterback, who has been known to throw an interception here and there. Obviously, Deon Cain may or may not play at wide receiver, so it could be a really good week for this Renegades defense that has shown some pretty good flashes through 2 weeks of the season. Moving down to the DC Defenders, we have Jordan Tiamo at quarterback, $9,600 GPP option if you want to go there. Obviously, a pretty solid, steady, safe play so far this season, as he is one of those few spring football veterans. And then at running back, Abram Smith, if you want to go there, $8,500 GPP option. Haven't really seen the upside out of him so far this season. Deion Jackson behind him, $5,100, kind of a pay down option if you want to go there. Both have been pretty much splitting the carries, at least early on in the year. And then in terms of their wide receivers, we got Ty Scott at $8,900. Solid GPP option. Think he has a ton of upside once again. Chris Rowland, $6,700, has been great through 2 weeks, so you can consider him a cash game option. Operated as their primary punt returner in week number 2. And then Jaden Mickens was their primary kick returner, although Mickens can return both kicks and punts. Cornell Powell has seen a ton of targets through 2 weeks, but he has caught like 2 of them. So if he ever catches some of them, he's probably going to be viable at $5,000. But that kind of remains to be seen at this point in time. In terms of that DC Defenders defense, they're going against the St. Louis Battlehawks this week. Probably one of the tougher matchups on paper. Greg Williams has stepped down as defensive coordinator to follow Reggie Barlow to Tennessee State. His son will take over as the defensive coordinator. So I think they'll be in decent hands. Obviously, a similar type of scheme that they will be running, but could be a notable step back at least the first week of that happening. Then we move down to the San Antonio Brahmas. Kellen Mond at quarterback, $9,200. Not interested in him whatsoever. I still personally think that Kevin Hogan is their best quarterback on this roster, although he was the quarterback 3 and inactive last week. John Lovett will monitor his injury status as he did miss in week 2. if it's Anthony McFarland and Jayshon Corbin, both once again will be GPP options. Deontay Kirkland has not had that big week so far this season, but at $9,200, a viable GPP option. Anthony McFarland operating as that primary kick returner, and Marquez Stevenson once again operating as that primary punt returner. In terms of the other wide receivers, if you want to go after Greg Ward at $6,000, you can definitely do that as well. And then Jacob Harris at $5,100, kind of looking like a cash game option at this point in time. Obviously has shown a little bit of chemistry with Kellen Mond just in general. In terms of the Brahmas defense, $3,700, kind of a paydown option there. They haven't looked quite as good this season, but going against Michigan Panthers, who just traded their best wide receiver away, there could be some potential upside there just in general. Then we move down to St. Louis Battlehawks with Manny Wilkins at quarterback, $10,000. Strong GPP option once again. Has had that pretty good rushing upside just in general. If he has a couple extra passing touchdowns, could look even better. At running back, Jacob Saylors, $10,500. So he's getting towards the tippy top at that running back position, but still a very, very viable and productive option once again. Cash game option there. In terms of their wide receivers, I got Ja'Cory Pearson as a GPP option. Hakeem Butler did miss in week 2. We'll have to see whether or not he's back for week number 3. None of the other guys really stepped up in his absence. If he's out, then maybe Gary Jennings gets that boost once again at $3,900. Could be a viable paydown option. We saw Frank Darby do all right in week number 1. Denzel Mims stepped up a little bit more in week number 2. So not really sure how that situation is all going to shake out, but we'll move down to that Battlehawks defense, $4,300. GPP option going against the DC defenders. There is a little bit of upside that could be had there if they can get some pressure on Jordan Ta'amu and stop that run game. But with that being said, that's what I do have in terms of UFL DFS for week number 3. As always, if you have any questions, be sure to leave them down in the comments section, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Once again, this sheet will be updated throughout the week. You'll be up on my Patreon page, so definitely feel free to check it out over there. Very, very small monthly donation. You get access to this sheet for UFL DFS. You get access to my UFL DFS stats for the season, week by week, and then you also get access to my MLB DFS notes if that's something you're interested in, as well as some of my additional NFL draft content. So for a very small monthly donation, pretty good value to be had there just in general. And then once again, if there's any major injuries, I'll list them down in the comment section. I'll be listing the inactives down there at the same time as well. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now we have MLB DFS in terms of the core pick videos, Monday through Friday. Have my UFL DFS video, this video coming out once a week. Typically, that's going to be either on Tuesday or Wednesday. It might vary a little bit week to week. And then last but not least, I will be putting out some additional NFL draft content, especially as we get closer to the actual NFL draft. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Parlay Play, and Prize Picks. If you're a brand new user to any one of those 3 sites, when you sign up, make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's 125% match up to $2,000. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comment section of this video or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for this week's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day, and some pretty good luck in UFL DFS for week number 3.